I think all of the Star Trek fans love them some. They're all Sesame Street adjacent.
Right? I mean, how can you like Star Trek and not love pigs in space?
Well, how can you like Star Trek and not love Animal?
Yeah?
They feel so connected to me.
I wonder why. Like, genuine question. If you're being serious, like, what happened in your childhood that made you conflate those two?
Oh, you're saying this is just me? That I'm the only one who thinks this?
Well, I don't know. Like,
I think because maybe they all look like aliens.
right?
Although I guess Animal, the least Star Trekian, because he just beats on things and screams and plays the drums. But he's the most hilarious.
Mm-hmm. Is that going to go in
That's-
before our...
Isn't Animal like super funny? He's always funny.
Yeah,
He just says his name.
right? Well, and woman.
That's true. I guess it depends on what era of Animal we're talking about.
Yeah.
Because I see him on, there's some commercial where he's playing the drums in the basement or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
A currently running commercial.
Yes. It's about Geico. Yeah.
And I love seeing Animal. I like that he's out there, you know?
Right? Yeah.
All right. Enough with the bullshit. As you know, this is the measure of an episode.
This is?
This is where it is our continuing mission to explore what makes Star Trek genuine Star Trek and not just proper TV. What? I'm Paul.
And I'm Jonathan. And this week oh, no, that's not. That's you. We do this with 3 criteria. That's what I say. I'll tell you that for free. With the first one is there sci-fi crucial to the plot?
It's been a long time, hasn't it? It's been a long time since we said this into a microphone.
Yes.
We say it all the time to our friends and family, but just into a microphone.
We just did this last week. What are you talking? Oh no, we didn't do it. We did it 2 weeks ago. What are you talking about? It was you and me when we talked about the animated series.
So I have to ask, do you believe that our listeners believe that?
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just speaking the truth.
Okay, what's criteria number 2 then?
What's criteria number 2 then, if you are speaking the truth? Is that sci-fi presented in a unique or novel way? And is there a moral or ethical dilemma that a character faces? I'm Jonathan.
That's right. And this week we watched Star Trek Prodigy Season 1, Episode 2, He-Man. Even with the guidance of their hologram advisor Janeway, the crew of the Protostar is tested when their ship is on a dangerous cosmic collision course.
Are you not going to say what the actual episode was?
I did.
He-Man?
It's called He-Man.
Okay. All right, continue. What was your thought on that?
That was it.
Okay.
I mean, on the blurb,
Yeah.
it's fine. I am curious because we've only seen this episode.
Right.
We talked about perhaps watching the first episode because it seems wrong to not give ourselves that context. But I'm kind of glad that we did because I feel like we skipped we skipped some of the stuff that seems unimportant because it seems like the first episode was just them escaping from this prison planet.
Right, like we learned everything in this episode through dialogue. Yeah.
And the recap was all I needed.
Right.
And it makes me think that this, as you said, it is not a serialized show, meaning it's not going to require you to see. It's not like Picard.
Right. Based on what we've seen so far, it's not like Picard, which Picard also was terrible at that. But
But I think it is not going to be like Next Gen, where every show starts off with them on the bridge and they just encounter a new something or other.
right.
I think it is going to be serial in that their adventure continues.
Yes, I would agree with that.
So, yeah, I don't know. When you said this is for kids,
Mhm.
I did not properly absorb what you were talking, or I did not understand, because this is like legit for kids.
Right, it's on Nickelodeon. Yeah, this is a kids show. This is not Kids Are Welcome. It's like parents can sit
Yeah.
and watch this too.
Right. No, parents can watch this,
Right.
but the fact that I'm not a parent yet made me feel weird watching this.
Okay, so what are your thoughts on...
My thoughts was it very interesting. My first thought is, was Janeway in the first episode? Because it seems like she's first introducing herself, the hologram of Janeway. this is the first episode that she is in. So I don't. That was kind of nice.
Yeah,
That
so
we got to that part.
she was the sting at the end of the last episode.
Well,
Okay.
right. Okay. Okay. Do you want to know what I thought of this episode, or do I want to know what you thought of this episode?
I want to know what you thought of this episode because again, like I am familiar with this series insofar as I was keeping track of its production before its premiere.
Okay. Okay. The first thing, what I loved about this show so far is, even though it is a children's show, I love the ship.
Yeah.
The Protostar. I think the ship is the best part.
Oh,
And
I do have to back you up 1 second. The theme song. Did you like the theme song? Did you
I
listen?
thought it was hot garbage.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
It sounded unfinished to me.
Oh wow. Okay. Did you see who
It
did
sounded like Michael Giacchino,
Yeah.
who is very famous for doing all the J.J. Abrams movies.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. All right.
I did not. I guess you liked it.
I did. I thought it was one of the best ones out of New Trek.
I felt like it had the beginnings of like a good. It just felt very static. It felt like they had the theme, like the right hand was playing, and he worked out a theme of that, but the left hand was just kind of just playing static chords.
Okay.
There was nothing interesting. Like if you think about the next gen, like it obviously was trying to be in the same category as all of the Star Trek theme songs, right? Mm-hmm. It's kind of mysterious, has an element of adventure to it.
Yeah.
It is not happy, but it's got forward motion,
Right.
like the Enterprise. But the problem with it is it had no inner motion to me.
Sure.
It just felt very half-assed.
Okay.
If I must say, like, actually, go to YouTube. Don't watch the intro because people tend to get distracted, right? You're just watching because the intro, like visually, is really cool.
Well,
Thought
that may be what I'm doing. So
Yeah, it held its own in terms of visual, but in terms of just the music, like close your eyes or just find the YouTube version where it's just the song and listen to it, and it's like, to me, it's just kind of boring. Like nothing. Like the theme is good, like the melody, like it's got the inner workings, the skeleton. The Skeletor, if you will. So I'm going to tie it in somehow.
right. Actually, just to go down that rabbit hole really quick, I was thinking about it today. Like if we decided to do a He-Man spinoff podcast, to really capture that untapped market.
When we just have too many listeners,
Right.
and we need to shed some.
Yeah, we got to split them up somehow. No, there's almost 300 episodes currently of He-Man. That blows my mind.
That's including old,
Yeah.
new, yeah.
Yeah. Old, new adventures, the reboot, Revelations, and the CGI cartoon.
Right.
Yeah. Sorry.
Anyway,
Yeah.
the ship.
The
I
ship.
thought the ship was super cool. It's kind of like when we watched a Voyager episode recently where the Doctor is transported back to the Alpha Quadrant onto a brand new ship and he meets Andy Dick and they have an adventure together.
Yeah.
That type of ship where it can do all of these marvelous things. And they're
Right.
sort of slowly discovering all these marvelous things that they can do. And I like that aspect of it. I wish the whole show was that it was more based on them figuring out, like they have this ship, they escaped from where they needed to go, and there isn't an immediate danger other than or maybe there's sort of that hovering danger of the guy who wants to get the ship back, who stole the ship originally.
Right. So they got to get out of there.
The
Yeah.
actual,
Yeah.
I think he's the villain. I wasn't sure.
Well, I was going to say, like, he does have a personal motivation that you can relate to. Like, he's trying to get his daughter back. But, right, he's, like, trying to kidnap the slaves so they can be properly punished. And, you know, the rock girl was like, we never even did anything wrong. And, you know, they're slaves. They're not prisoners. And so,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I wanted it to be about that. But I can understand that that's not, kids are not going to care about that. But here's the problem with kids today.
today.
Is they feel the need to make this show that has nonstop action happening in it, and I guess that's what kids want. They need to be entertained in that way. That the intellectualness of Star Trek, where it's like, oh, this ship can do this. Like I would think that in an episode like this, Janeway should maybe be inaccessible, or they don't know how to turn her back on.
Right.
And they need to figure out, how do we turn her back on? We got her on once. Let's get her on again because she can help us. And that's the show that I was hoping I was going to get with this ship because it's magical.
Mm-hmm.
These kids have seen only slavery, and now they are thrust into the future, basically.
Right.
And we are along with them. It's like, oh, it has this amazing... Like when they are kind of touring the ship a little bit, and what's-his-name finds the captain's quarters, and it's this really nice place. By the way, epic levels of space a la Strange New Worlds.
Yeah.
That seems to be the new theme, the new milieu of Star Trek.
Right.
It's giant, tall rooms.
Yeah. No longer the constricted submarine-like stuff. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So what did you like about it? I want to know what else you liked. What did you like?
So my issue was actually that I did not like the quote unquote captain at all. So I had a really hard time liking the episode. You know, like I got that there was conflict and everything was fine, but because the character who we kept going back to for me was so unlikable, I didn't like what was happening.
I agree with you. I actually wrote that same note. And I want to know specifically, how are kids supposed to react and perceive the totally unlikable main character?
Yeah.
And at first I thought, well, okay, this is the beginning of the episode and he's totally unlikable and making terrible decisions and making very selfish decisions. Mm-hmm. But by the end of the episode, probably going to come around, at least in some way. And he did not.
Right.
He did not come around. Yes, he eventually called for Janeway, but only upon certain death was he willing to call Janeway to help him.
Well, and even then, he took the glory for himself after it was done. You know, he was like, I realized when to call for help, so you're welcome.
Yeah. What is this normal? Have you seen this? You are the animation buff on this show.
Right.
Is this normal to have a character who is supposed to be like the main guy and have him be so just deplorable?
No, it's like they watched Breaking Bad and they were like, oh, that's how it's done.
There's nothing really redeemable about. I mean, let's compare Walter White to what's the main character's name in Prodigy? Dal?
Yeah, Dal.
Well, Walter White is super nice to his own detriment, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like Dal is just so arrogant and afraid that he's unwilling to be movable in being part of a team. He just wants to be the captain and wants the glory, etc.
Right.
So that's how they are alike.
All right, let's see what we're watching next.
But you're right. He was so unlikable.
Yeah.
That it just made me angry.
Right.
And I felt myself. I felt myself in like a zoo compound paddock type of thing where I'm supposed to be feeling this way.
I have to assume,
accident.
right? Like this,
right.
He must have an actual series arc because usually, so to kind of circle back around to your question. Usually, this sort of thing in cartoons is exactly what you said. Like they have a moment where they realize that they were being too prideful, and they accept that, you know, and they apologize with sincerity to everyone, and and everyone forgives them, and they're part of the team, and it resets with them having grown out of that character flaw.
That does not happen in this show.
So far, yeah.
It happens for everybody else, it seems like. Because the prisoner, the daughter of the villain, she seems to come around that these are not criminals, that the the 9-year-old is not a criminal.
Yeah. Yeah.
That perhaps there's something else going on here, and she comes around. So she has her own little arc.
Mm-hmm.
The 9-year-old giant beast child has an arc.
What was her arc? She definitely showed some character traits, but what was the arc?
That she's big and strong. And she knows it.
Okay. Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? Like he's arguably the main character, even though it is a cast of characters.
Right.
They all don't seem to have as much time put into them, as much effort put into their character as this guy.
Right.
We didn't see the first episode, so we don't really know what is going on.
Yeah, it might have been equal time on him in that first episode, first two-parter, and then every episode's going to focus on a different person, maybe.
Yeah. I just want to know what would have happened if they didn't make him so one-dimensionally terrible.
Right, arrogant, yeah. Yeah.
Like, would kids? Is this on purpose? Like, is this they have to make kids shows like this because this is what sells. This is what kids can perceive the best. They can relate to this the best. Like, he's just a kind of a bully. Like, when I think back to my days as a teenager, that's what the way that Doll is how bullies were.
Right. Yeah. A little heavy-handed. Guys, isn't my idea the best? Let's do that.
Yeah, just kind of bulldozes his way through decisions.
Yeah.
And
And
everybody kind of, yeah.
well, that might have been intentional to show how much they're not like Starfleet. But the problem is he doesn't have any redeeming qualities so far that we can't relate to his behavior.
Right. You're right. You're very right. And there's not sort of an ongoing, at least that I can remember, there's not really an ongoing, like, they don't have to go somewhere now. It's like, we need to get this from this person because of this mystery that we found out back on the planet.
Right. The two kind of joined missions are to get to the Alpha/Beta quadrant to find this Starfleet that they're talking about, but then also to get away from the girl's dad.
Right.
Yeah.
And they don't really know that they're being chased yet, I don't think.
No, I mean they know that they know that they are insofar that they escaped, but they don't know that he has started hunting them. They don't know how close he is. So, yeah.
Although I will say, good for them that they were battling. What they were battling was a supernova. They weren't battling a bad guy. It wasn't just another bad. It wasn't like Smallville season 1.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Like it was a spatial anomaly, or not anomaly, a phenomenon that they had to get themselves out of.
Right.
And as far as I can tell, it was kind of scientifically accurate to a point, as much as they probably could have been in a children's show.
Right.
Right? They kind of did the work a little bit in keeping with Star Trek. In that it wasn't just, like, I guess you couldn't just take all of the Star Trek insignia stuff off of the show and it just be space show. I think that they embedded Star Trek into this show enough where it would be lost without Janeway. It would be lost. Like, if it was just a spaceship with a hologram helping them, it's not that.
Right. Yeah. No, it would definitely take some pretty major revisions for this to work as non-Star Trek, which is kind of impressive because, well, and also kind of required because the show is taking place in the Gamma Quadrant, where Voyager was. And so
Voyager's in the Delta Quadrant.
Oh, is it? So what's
Yeah,
in
I
the
think
Gamma
so.
Quadrant? Oh, the wormhole. The wormhole's in the Gamma Quadrant. So it's taking place in the Delta Quadrant where Starfleet isn't. There might be some alien later on that remembers Voyager or remembers Janeway or something like that when they come onto the
Now
ship.
that would be cool if this show backtracked or retraced the steps of Voyager, and everybody's pissed at them.
Right. And yeah, they saw the consequences. Yeah.
Don't go to this planet. Bad idea.
Is that the hologram saying like
Yeah.
right. While sipping her hollow coffee.
Yeah. I did love that they gave her like the coffee thing too.
Yeah.
Like, they did their homework a little bit.
Right.
But here's the thing. She is still the smartest person in the room.
Yes, but now it's justified.
But she's not, like, I feel like holograms are supposed to be subservient. Not in a slave kind of way, because that'd be triggering to them, specifically these kids, but not as though the hologram is meant to do everything. It's their butler. But in that it's meant to serve. It's not meant to immediately guide or immediately take control.
Right.
Or immediately be, I mean, I guess in a way, this hologram is much like the Doctor on Voyager.
Yeah.
Where there's kind of this pre-existing arrogance. They know more than who they're in front of, no matter who's in front of them, kind of thing.
Right.
Maybe that's on purpose.
Yeah. So I actually have that note. I feel like she is more like the Doctor insofar as she is reacting to her surroundings in a emotionally reactive sort of way. That's not really the terms that I'm looking for, but not just in a data manner where they are collecting the information and compartmentalizing it to provide the appropriate response. Or like when Data went to go see the recorded message from Sung, and he's like just standing there, not saying anything, and he says who's requesting the information, and blah blah blah, and then he says it is I, Data, and then he's like, oh, Data, I recorded this message just for you, type thing, where she's not going through a series of recorded responses for everything, so she knows that they're not Starfleet cadets.
Well, she figures it out, I guess, but I don't know.
They never actually say that. She says like you have the potential to be so much more. Like that's what I see in you. But she.
By the way,
yeah.
Do they?
Right. Yeah.
Do they have the potential to be so much more? Or is this all we're gonna get?
Right. Well, and that's the other part of it too. Is I feel like everybody has the potential. She could say that to.
A plant.
Right, like literally any of the 5 people in front of her. Like a dolphin, a dog, and 2 other aliens and a plant.
Right. Every single person, with the exception of the giant beast 9-year-old. Because she goes off with her goal, accomplishes the goal, even though she's not super responsible ultimately for capturing the prisoner. But she goes off with a goal, tries her best, accomplishes the goal, comes back. Everybody else just kind of fumbles their way and just rolls into everything that's happening, and doesn't really accomplish anything. So I didn't understand. I don't like the guy who refers to himself in the third person. I kind of was intrigued by the mechanical character,
right?
Because Data,
right. Well, what was interesting, sorry, just to go back a little bit to the third person, is he can't say I. I don't know if you noticed that or not. He said me several times.
He's like incorrectly. He says me.
No, like, she's like, you're responsible for this. And he's like, me? But then he's like, what does Jacob Podkin do? Or whatever.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure, I wish I could remember his name, but I'm pretty sure it's Derek from The Good Place.
Which one was Derek?
Derek.
Oh, right. I love that guy. He's one of the best characters.
I know.
They were all one of the best characters. Every single one of them. I can't believe that show ended.
Yeah. It had a pretty solid ending, though. For what it was, like, given everything that happened in the show, like, they had a lot to live up to finish the series. And I think that I don't know what they could have done to make it better, but it was pretty pretty close to great. Yeah. Or it was pretty great. Like, I'm sure that they could have done something. I just don't know what it was.
It's so funny because we often bitch about the idea that shows go on too long. They try and stretch them as thin as possible.
Oh, it's the catch-22 of every show. Yeah. Go ahead. I think I know what you're saying.
And now I'm bitching that, well, why didn't they just make new episodes?
Right.
Why'd they end it early?
Right.
Like, I can't be pleased, I think is what I'm trying to say.
Yes.
But that show was so goddamn good that they didn't have another season in them. They didn't have something else. Because it did feel like, okay, that now it's ending. And they knew it was going to end at this time. Everything that we've ever suggested to people who make television shows, they followed. And yet we are left wanting more. I guess that's the point.
Right.
Now we'll go buy the t-shirt.
But it's one of those things where you're left wanting more, but you can't really specify what more you want. Just that you like the show and you like the characters so much, you just want more of them.
And there's like no talk of a spinoff which is good. I don't like that.
Yeah.
The only spinoff that has ever worked for me ever has been Better Call Saul. And that's just a totally different show.
But that's also because you've barely watched Cheers or Frasier.
Does that count though?
Yes.
Do sitcoms count?
Oh, I mean, that's where it happens the most.
I mean, I guess you could argue that The Good Place is a sitcom.
You could also argue that everything we're doing is spin-offs.
You mean Star Trek?
Yeah.
Yeah. Does that count? Is Next Gen a spin-off of the original series?
Yes, it came into its own, much in the same way that Frasier did. But yes, it was very much a spin-off. It was touted as, well, yeah, it was touted as a spin-off, continuing the adventures in the Star Trek universe.
That's not how I perceive a spinoff, though. I look at a spinoff as, while the original is still going, something else kind of is ejected, like a character or a place, and you do a whole show based on that. This is almost just a continuation.
Right.
Is that what a spinoff is?
It can be. It has been. I mean, that's what Frasier is. Because
Right.
Frasier started when Cheers ended.
Did it run longer than Cheers itself?
It ran the same amount of time. Or it was, one of them might have been longer by a year, but they both went 10 years.
See, I don't think Deep Space Nine is a spinoff of Next Gen either.
It was supposed to be. Ensign Ro was supposed to be Keanu Reeves.
Right, but she wasn't.
I know.
That would have been way better. Why did they just do that?
Well, because she didn't want to do it. Michelle Forbes.
That was stupid.
I feel like now in retrospect, it's not that she's disappointed she didn't do it, but no. Like I'm trying to remember the interviews that I read about her. It's one of the, like, enough time has passed that looking back on it, she should have done it, but she's okay that she didn't do it. You know,
who has more regret, Ensign Ro for not being Kira, or Denise Crosby?
I would say Denise Crosby.
We'll never know.
I know.
But I'm just curious, like, just not as though I'm condemning them for something.
No, right.
But like, truly, like, who looks back and says that was a mistake? Should have stayed at the show, or I should have done. You know what I mean? Like,
I don't.
It just depends on.
Right. I really don't think either of them do. I think Denise Crosby is disappointed that more didn't come after she left, but she was not happy being there, and so she's still a little salty about it. Like, there was
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Okay.
There was a Michael Berman, Rick Berman.
Yeah.
There was some sort of feud between those two people that she was fired or not fired, or that she quit. It's something like that. I don't remember. I should not talk about it.
Yeah. I'll put up the tweet about it, because he tweeted something about her leaving, and she replied saying, "Nope. In fact, this is what you said." Oh, I think he ripped the comm badge off of her after, like, her last day of filming, and he was like, "You won't need this anymore." Something like that. I think he said, like, I wasn't there the last day of her filming or something.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it was something like that. And she replied, she's like, "Yes, you were."
See, I want to know, because this happens where people just don't buy into the Kool-Aid of the show. And I've worked on a few television shows in the music department and what happens is that no matter how bad the show, not that any of the shows that I've worked on have been bad, that's not what I'm saying, but no matter what the show is, good or bad is the way I should say that, you always buy into it. You're always like, what's going to happen to this character next? Because you have to.
Right.
You have to be in with the show, or you're never going to absorb and assimilate into it. Mm-hmm. You have to be like, this is the best show ever. Mm-hmm. And if you don't do that, I can see it being very alienating. And maybe that happened to Denise Crosby, where she was just not getting it. Right? Just not understanding what was happening. This could be totally untrue. I'm just speculating here.
Right.
And just saying, I feel ridiculous. And I don't know what to do. I have a feeling that maybe Patrick Stewart felt the same way, but he muscled through it, and finally, which was the season 1. This happened,
right? Yeah, in season 2, he definitely loosened up and kind of realized what they were doing and how everybody else was feeling, and he drank the Kool-Aid. Yeah,
right. He assimilated into the show.
Yep.
And maybe just it was impossible for Denise Crosby to do that.
Yeah.
I feel like Ensign Ro. Well, she wasn't a main character, so she doesn't really count.
Right.
In terms of assimilating into it. You can be, how many different famous or to be famous nascent stars were on Star Trek?
Mm-hmm.
Many.
Anyway,
back to Prodigy.
Right.
I have no idea how we got there. So many. But I don't know. What do you think? I almost kind of want to say that this is not a Star Trek episode. It's not. I feel like none of them can be, because there's never going to be like novel science fiction. Of course, wait until like episode 3. It's like the most amazing science fiction ever.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, it was definitely the novel and unique for this one, because it was absolutely required in the story, and there was definitely the moral or ethical dilemma that like Rock Talk faced, and basically everybody except Dal faced. But the unique or novel approach, it's a star and they're being sucked into it and they've got to figure out how to get out of it. Like, I feel like we've seen that on every series.
Yeah. I think number one is that the computer was driving the ship, or at least driving the guns.
Yeah, I did like that. Those two peaks under the hood, the one where she's like, it's going to auto aim for you. You just have to push the button. I thought that was cool. And the vehicle replicator was a cool little.
Definitely novel. I'm surprised this is the first time we're seeing this.
Right.
Again, with the ship. Like, I want to see, like, first of all, it built a ship in like 30 seconds.
Right.
And I thought it was going to be like some sort of, not holodeck. What do they use to make food?
Replicator?
Replicator. Why can I never remember that word? I thought it was just going to beam in like all the different elements. You know?
Oh, right. Just from around the ship.
Right. Not
taking
beam,
it
but,
off.
But create. We're just going to take this from this part of the ship. And I thought it was going to replicate everything on the spot. That it had its like reserves of atoms and shit that it would just take from in an emergency. Like, you don't want to just replicate a ship. This is an emergency. Right. So they'd have reserve matter that they could just take, like super dense matter.
Yeah.
And it would use that as like a life buoy dinghy thing. And I have my own little cannon going on with how cool that little element was. But another thing about the tech was that, see, I hate that I'm doing this with this show because I can't really hold Prodigy responsible for this. But the idea that you can just take all the power and divert all power into whatever they diverted it into, and the whole ship just shuts down and goes afloat or goes adrift in space because they hit the button. Like, you'd think there would be like, are you sure you want to do that?
Well,
like, that's pretty dumb.
She started to say that. See, this is why I think that she was more cognizant of what was happening rather than just being reactive to what the people were telling her. Because she's really smart. When people say divert all power to the main thrusters or whatever, like the all power,
they just all immediately pass out.
Right? Like, it's not all power. Like the ship.
Well, that's what I want to know. Like, I feel like when you're driving down the road at 75 miles an hour, your car will not allow you to put the car into park.
Right.
It will not.
Right.
Because why would you need to do that?
Right.
Same thing with a starship.
Right. See,
I can imagine. Yeah.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So I think the ship called the Protostar. I think the Protostar is connected to Janeway as like its guidance safety features / training. So she has the ability to fluctuate what's happening based on the requests. So when he says divert all power, she could do what is normally what happens, but she's like, she wants to test them. She's like, are you sure you want all power? Because I can do that, but that's gonna, and so it takes away the shields, takes away the brig, but it left the artificial gravity, left the life support, and it left the ship replicator.
Well, that's an emergency, so that's always going to be going. Like, that's on its own thing.
But it drains so much power to do so.
I know. Yeah, it was a little inconsistent with that. But I have to ask, though, in your scenario where Janeway, hologram Janeway, is teaching them a lesson, that when they're hurtling toward a supernova,
right,
is that the moment for a teaching moment?
Right. Oh yeah, no, I get it. Like, there's definitely a conceit that you have to accept about what's happening. I mean, for her, like the ship careening towards a black hole, that's a Sunday night.
Boring.
Right.
Here's the thing, though, and I can't necessarily demerit Prodigy for this, but what they're talking about, the phenomenon that they are witnessing and a part of and being dragged into, the scale is totally off. And we have this argument a lot. Like, we had this argument, not argument, but discussion.
Yeah.
When Next Gen found the Dyson Sphere. And they kind of come up to the Dyson Sphere, and it's almost as though they're orbiting a planet.
Right.
And you can still see the curve of the Dyson Sphere.
Yeah.
When in reality, it would be like a wall. It would look vertical to them.
Right. It would just be so big. Yeah.
It's so huge. Like, I don't think people understand how giant a fully continuous Dyson sphere would be.
Well, right.
Same thing with this.
Just to give a little bit of perspective, you can fit several 100,000 Earths in the sun. So the barrier around a star, and the sun is one of the smaller stars that are in the universe. So to put a barrier around that kind of item, exactly. Like you cannot be that close to it and see the curvature of it.
And it's not super close to the sun either.
No, it's not.
Because you can't get that close to the sun,
right.
theoretically speaking. So it would have to be that much bigger. Like the amount of volume inside of this dice, that's why it's only hypothetical. It will never be built.
Right.
Right?
Right.
Not in 1,000 years, maybe.
I don't know if there is enough material in our galaxy. No, sorry. In our solar system to build a Dyson sphere.
No, I don't. I think you're right.
Yeah.
It's that kind of thing. So going back to whatever it is they're hurtling toward, they said it. I don't remember exactly what phenomenon it is. But
yeah, anyway, yeah. Doesn't matter. No. What I was trying to remember what it was, but it's not important to your point. Yeah.
We need to know.
Okay. I think it was a collapsing red dwarf, but I'm not positive.
It would be humongous.
Right.
It would take them weeks, months, years if they were just trapped in the gravity well of it, just to get anywhere toward it.
Yeah.
Right. It would be that big that you would just not even see what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just sort of like it was a waterfall. They were basically going over a waterfall. That was the danger, right? That's this level of danger that is like, oh, it's going to happen in like 30 seconds. We should do something. It's like, this is not how it works.
Right. Well, yeah. And you would not be slowly careening in that manner, you know? Like at that distance, the ship would be moving so fast into the star that they would not really have enough time to react to it.
The way that it would be pulling you, it would just destroy the ship.
Right.
But I can't, like I said, we can't really blame Prodigy for not going into the microscience of what it's like, of like how spaghettification works.
Right.
when approaching a black hole or whatever. But, you know, it is a Star Trek show.
Yeah.
And we don't like Star Trek shows that are just decal Star Trek shows.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's just, oh, it's Janeway, I know that makes it Star Trek type of thing.
Right.
So, I don't know, did it get there? Like with the caveat that it is a children's program on Nickelodeon. Is it a Star Trek? Is it proper Star Trek? Did it get there?
No, that's what I'm saying. Like I feel like it did because of the sci-fi and the moral and ethical dilemma that the characters are facing, but the sci-fi that was presented was not novel or unique.
I don't know, that shipbuilder thing is pretty unique.
Yeah.
Even though it never gets used.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. It wasn't crucial to the plot.
It was in that it was drawing power. It was crucial to the problem, I guess.
That's true.
And there is a moral dilemma.
I know. That's what I said.
What do you think it is?
Well, for me, it's whether or not you follow orders. You know, like Rock followed the orders in the same way that the daughter did.
Right. See, to me, that's where the dilemma is the daughter, because she went into it thinking they were all 9-year-old criminals, deserving to be enslaved on a planet.
For their lives.
It's
like lifetime servitude. Yeah.
So what did they do? What does she think they did to deserve that? Anyway, her being a dum-dum aside, she does come around and she does say, like, maybe I got this wrong.
Right, that's true.
Maybe these kids are not criminals.
Yeah, I mean, she straight up, yeah, for what it's worth, I'm sorry.
Sorry about that. I should have spoken up.
Right. Are you happy now?
I should have thought it through.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Like, it does check off 2 of those boxes very solidly. It's just the novel and the unique part. I think that I am willing to concede enough on the vehicle replicator being part of the plot.
Like, what else can it build?
Right.
I mean, they do say it's a vehicle replicator, so maybe just vehicles. But what other kind of, like, what can it do? Is there like a library where you can, build me a ATV?
Right. Well, yeah.
Why
like,
you would need one?
How far back does it have? Like all 500 years or 800 years worth of history?
Can you build a Camaro?
Right. Well, can you build a sailing ship? You know, can you build a galley or a fleet?
A sail ship. Why do you need to build this, sir? For what reason? Yes, we can.
Right. That's the thing. Like, there's so much in the library where it's just like, can you build a Camaro? Yes. What would you like me to build?
Can you build a Camaro? Yes. Will you build a Camaro?
Right. No.
No.
Right. I don't have to prove myself to you.
I do wish that there was a computer that had a little more sass. I guess that's Janeway.
Yeah.
Janeway has a little bit of sass to her.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
And I do feel like I have to hand it to Kate Mulgrew. I feel like she showed up.
Oh,
she has
100%.
a lot of techno babble.
Mm-hmm.
She has a lot of talk. She actually has a lot. She's going to be in every episode, I'm guessing, from this point going forward, that she has a lot to do in a way. And she's not just phoning it in,
right.
which she could have done.
Yeah.
Not that it's a lot of work. She goes in and probably works for an hour, but at least she shows up for the hour, you know? Okay, so it's a yes. For me, I'm going to say it is a proper Star Trek.
Right.
And that I didn't really like it.
Yeah. I would agree with both of those. But having said that I didn't like it, I liked it enough that I would want to see what continues. Both because like I like the other characters and because I am curious to see if Dal does an overall character change by the end of the season.
I would hope so, but then what's season 2 going to be about?
Well, then it would be, let's say he does actually step up into captain, or he has the humility to realize that he's not the best captain. One of those two things. I'm going to guess Gwen, the daughter, I just remembered her name, that he is going to have the humility to realize that she is the better captain, and she is going to recognize that they don't deserve to go back to her dad, and she's going to realize that her dad is the villain. And so now they are a united team with her being captain and him having the humility to step into another role. Probably going to be first officer because that's typically what happens when you have the jerk be the captain and they have to step down. They're like, we're going to give you second in command.
But see, here's the thing, though, that Dal is kind of a proto-Kirk in terms of the J.J. Abrams. If you think about the J.J. Abrams Kirk, the younger version.
Now that I know which one you're
arrogant,
talking about. All right.
Yeah. Arrogant, takes a lot of risks, doesn't really think before he acts, very impulsive. Maybe kind of falls into the right decision occasionally. And I feel like that's maybe what they're going for, is they're trying to, in a way, rhyme with Kirk somehow.
Maybe.
But see, it's so one-dimensional at this point.
Right.
That it's hard. I mean, it seems like why would you ultimately castrate your main character at the end of the show and put someone else in that? Like then the arc doesn't work.
Right. Well, the struggle, I think, for me is that behind closed doors, he is selfish. And outside of closed doors, he tries to come across as humble, but he's still, like you said, bulldozing, and strong-arming his way into the things that he wants. He's like,
right.
It's my ship. And they're like, it's our ship. He's like, yeah, isn't that what I said? You must have misheard me. I totally said it's our ship.
Right.
Like not a correction, like a dismissal.
Yeah, he just seems like he just seems like an asshole.
Right.
He doesn't seem like, oh, this is the beginning of a good leader.
Right.
Like he's got, like, what did he do in this show? There's like, oh, I can see a little glimmer of what could be great. I know Janeway says that, but she says that to everybody.
Right. Except for Kim. Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, I guess we'll find out because we're going to watch the whole show eventually.
Eventually. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So yes, no.
Yes, no. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And we don't need to see what we're watching next because Lower Decks is starting tomorrow.
Oh yeah, we're doing the whole season.
Yeah. So staying with the animation streak.
Am I going to be totally lost having only seen 1 or 2 episodes of the previous show?
I don't think so.
Sorry, the previous seasons.
Maybe because the season. I think we need to watch the season 2 finale.
I'm sure they'll recap us into it.
Okay.
Right?
Then no.
No.
Yeah.
Okay. So we know what we're watching next.
We do.
That is Lower Decks season 3,
episode 1. Yeah.
Episode 1, and we'll get right into it. Anything else you want to say about Prodigy season 1, episode 2, Star Trek?
It has the potential of being a great show.
Oh, it's very generous of you.
Just because there is so much in here that could be redeemed, especially with solid writing, which I feel like they had in this episode, that, again, it does make me look forward to it. And again, I am far more the optimist than you are. Remember, I was committed to Lost until the second to last episode. So, I am more than willing to give shows the benefit of the doubt, even when it hasn't earned it and doesn't deserve it.
Well, just as an aside, how much better would the show have been if they made the Janeway hologram a washed out, like, malcontent?
Do what you want.
Shut up, you pipsqueak, and give me the wheel.
Right. Wait, why am I being locked out? Because you can't fly this ship.
Who can fly it? Mommy can.
Now get off my bridge.
She just strong. That would have been so much better.
It would have. So what I feel like at the end, she genuinely should have taken over. I was hoping that he would not get to the solution before it was too late. He would still be hemming and hawing. And if he waited, if she had waited until he was ready, the ship would have been too far into the gravitational pull and would not have been able to get pulled out.
I feel like they almost got there. They almost got to this point where we thought that, they were never really in danger, that Janeway had it all under control, that she was teaching them a lesson.
Right.
That this was nothing, this problem that they had gotten themselves into really wasn't anything for this ship, that the ship couldn't handle. Mm-hmm. But that she was actually teaching them a lesson, and that she would never have let it got to the point where they couldn't get away. But she felt that she could read her audience and know, okay, these kids need to be scared. These 9-year-old cadets need to be scared into submission.
Okay. You know what? Absolutely. And it all should have been a simulation on the bridge.
That would have been interesting.
Yeah.
But then the pushback is, okay, so where are the stakes for the show? If we now know that anything can be a simulation, then we'll never trust, we'll lose trust in the writing, I guess. So I agree with you. That would be interesting. That's a great episode of regular Star Trek, but would that have worked for the kids show? Because then the kids will just think, well, that's stupid.
Maybe, right? I mean, maybe putting 9-year-olds in certain death situations is better than simulated certain death for kids watching. But I kind of feel like maybe on some level, on their subconscious, they would realize that it could always be fake, so they would not get fully invested into it. But I also feel like being episode to episode, they would not think about, well, it wasn't like this last time, so maybe it isn't like it this time.
Yeah. Or they'll always keep them guessing.
Yeah.
You never know when you actually are in mortal danger.
Right. Or maybe
so you might as well treat this like it's real.
maybe she, either way, maybe she says, that was a great simulation, and they're like, what, it was fake? And she's like, yeah, I just wanted to make sure that you guys, first off, recognize how brilliant I am, and second off, work together as a team. And she's like, now let's get out of here. And they fly away from the actual black hole. So it really was there. And she was just trying to calm them down.
No, she opens up, she cancels the simulation, and behind them is the real phenomenon. It's now we get to try it for real. They're like,
right.
We just did this episode.
Rock Talk just collapses and starts sobbing.
I hate Janeway. Can we turn her off?
Yeah. But yeah, I am definitely interested to see what else happens in this show.
Yeah. Well, we have lots to watch.
We do. All right. Well,
I've been Paul.
And I've been Jonathan.
And this has been The Measure of an Episode, Nickelodeon edition.
And we actually did get some feedback on this, but you already knew that. And the response was favorable, but they want to hear...
I'm just waiting for hate. Pure hate.
Right. Well, but what they want to hear is more than just the captains.
What they want to hear.
Everybody. So, there's the easiest one to sign off on today, which is, but you already knew that.
Oh, that's Scotty. Is there a Scottish person on Lower Decks?
I don't think so.
Because it has to be from Lower Decks if we're keeping with our...
Oh, okay. All right.
But you know the show, so
right.
You're going to have to do it.
I know. Wow. You pour yourself a brandy while I do this.
Drop the ice cubes in.
Entertain me.
I'm waiting.
I'm trying to think of through the crew. There is. Okay. All right. This is kind of a deeper cut because it's an episode that we haven't done, but it's a. But you already knew that.
I have no idea who that is.
It was a Ferengi guest star.
Oh. Well, at least they keep with like them being snarling monsters.
Oh yeah, it's great. Yeah, I don't want to spoil it for you, but
Okay. All right. Well, I've been Paul. I don't know how to end it. We've ended it 15 times already.